How's it going, everybody? This is D. Nope, Lynn ain't with me this time. Project Airwaves, I'm back at it again. It's time for another session. It's been a minute. I got a lot on my mind. A lot's been going on, and I'm ready to talk about it. Okay, I'll stop that. What's going on, cats and dogs? Everything in between, guys and gals, and whatever you like to be called there otherwise. Okay, all right. So I try, when I do my overthinking in sessions, I try not to be all gloomy and doomy and bleak, but that seems to be the topics that really, I don't want to say get me amped up, but they really make me want to come out of my shell and say something, I guess you might say. So I was watching, what was it, Philly D, and I'm terrible because I remember Philly D's name, but I don't remember the other channels I watch. I've watched some news and some science channels. I'm a geek. I love science. Anything to do with like the Earth and the rotation around the sun, our solar system, all that stuff like intrigues me. But mainly the planet, because there's so much of the planet we don't understand, and we're still exploring and learning new things and finding new chemicals and molecules and all types of stuff and elements, and it's just amazing the planet we live on by itself, without even including the other planets. Just the planet we live on by itself is so amazing and so vast that we haven't explored all of the planet. We got caves, oceans, water systems, some land masses that we may or may not know about that have not yet been touched by the likes of man. And that's crazy considering how long humans have been walking the earth for 2-3 some odd thousand years, according to science. And so it's nuts when I hear about global warming, and how do you jump off into a topic like this? How? I want to talk about global warming because to me, in my mind, global warming, A, makes perfect sense, and B, makes no sense at all. So when we talk about global warming from the aspect of, the natural way of things, I feel that global warming and cooling are a natural progression of the Earth. And that's just because we have, Antarctica and the Arctic, North and South poles, polar ice caps covered in ice all the time, every time. But at some point, those weren't there. At some point, all of the continents were connected, called Pangea. And, for all intents and purposes, we lived in almost like a perfectly tropic zone-like area for how Pangea was stationed on the planet at that particular time. Supposedly. But I mean, hey, if you look at a globe, all the continents look like they do fit together. And so you have waxes and wanes of how, ecological, systems move, and weather systems and animal life, plant life, people, just the way the world turns. Everything has to change as time goes. Things are not built to stay the same. That's why we have volcanoes that create brand new land masses while destroying what was once there. We have tornadoes that come through and just completely level a particular, chunk of land or section of land, and then you rebuild on top of it. We have storms that cause flooding and that go under the earth and take everything that was in the earth and brings it up to the surface. Everything that was on the surface gets drowned underwater. But then after the flood subsides, you're back on dry land. The water has receded. Things begin to grow again. People begin to repopulate, and you may have a few new lakes or ponds for a little while. Earthquakes, they tectonic plates are shifting, causing massive cracks and geological formations around the world, forming the very land we live on today. And it's just crazy how one thing can be devastating but can lead to something magnificent. Perfect example, wildfires. What a lot of people don't know is in some cases, not all, but in some cases, wildfires can actually do more good for a particular forested area or an area that might have a lot of clutter as far as foliage, where we'll open that area up to sunlight and rain and oxygen, to where plant life that was once dying and suffocating because maybe of all the overgrowth is now able to thrive and grow and re-nourish the ground it's on. And make it fertile once again. But you look at a fire and like, that's bad. That's all bad. It burns everything to the ground, leaves nothing but ash, death and destruction in its wake. However, it can bring about life, even thunderstorms, lightning is bad. It can cause fires. It strikes a tree, strikes dry land, very, physically dry land, it can cause fires, but that also can be beneficial to the land around it, not necessarily the people. So, in my mind, global warming is a natural cycle of the planet. We see that with places like Africa, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, the Middle East over there, where they have a lot of desert. But once upon a time, scientists said that place was plentiful with plant life, almost an oasis, overabundance of plant life, of animals, of just life in general, because there was more water in that area, but the water receded. One thing led to another, and now went from a tropical paradise to a wasteland. You have swamp areas that you can see, the water level rose over the course of however many decades or generations. And, you can look at the tree roots and how the trees had to adjust to now sit on top of the water, or, enough out of the water that they can still, take in the sunlight, do their photosynthesis thing, and still grow and thrive. But once upon a time that wasn't necessary, because that land was drier. The water level was much lower, but it rose over time. So the ecosystem had to adjust around it. So it's just, looking at things like that, looking at the planet as a whole. Destruction comes with life. Something has to go so that something else can arrive. Something has to die so that something else may live. And so the natural progression of the earth is that, it heats up, it cools down, it heats up, it cools down. However, there's a naturality to it. I've said it in previous episodes. Once you break nature, you can't put it back. And we're seeing that more and more in our daily routine and our daily way of life, especially everything going on with our planet. And now, like I said, getting into this whole global warming aspect. My issue with the topic of global warming, because I talked about kind of how things are kind of naturally supposed to flow as far as the earth, just what we've seen throughout history, geology and things like that. However, now we have the more unnatural side of things, the man-made side of things, the more just permanently destructive side of things, unfortunately, because with mankind, we tend to leave death and destruction in our wake. In a lot of cases, not all cases, but in a lot of cases, we don't really take care of this wonderful land we've been given. And to be honest, it's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's not the next guy's fault. It's not the next girl's fault. This is how society has been built around us. So as a whole, the powers that be, the powers that are above you and me, beyond our pay grade, they have created this. With the Industrial Revolution, that was like the boom of technology and like mass production of cars and, refrigerators, television sets, toasters, housing, literally building houses, building high-rise buildings, planes, superstructures, all that. Like that was when, as a nation, the U.S. really, popped off. And of course, it was during wartime. So, I mean, what can you do? However, at that time, when things were popping off as far as us building and expanding, I would imagine it was speculated. I would imagine to some extent it was known by the powers that be that there was some type of negative side effect to all of this industry, all of this machinery, all of this, I guess you could call it, forward advancement of the human culture, of the human species. And so some things we did right, of course, before we had technology. Even now to this day, you have people living off of the land, living within the land. You have some civilizations that lived underground. You had some civilizations that lived within mountain, like cliff sides of mountains. You have some civilizations that live, in forests. Of course, you have people that live on isolated islands, and they manage to survive generation after generation without our current day technology, which is great. Of course, they've had their trials and tribulations. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying it's all good over there, but what I'm saying is humans can exist without nature. Humans can exist without modern technology. However, we've been raised, programmed, and really it's been forced upon us as far as convenience and conventionality, as far as what we have the choice to and not to accept, as far as how we want to make our mark on this planet. You have some people talking about reducing their carbon footprint, which sounds all good and fine and dandy. The problem is, this is not our fault as individuals. When you were born, from the day you were born, you were not asked, hey, do you want to live a life of modern convenience and comfort, or do you want to live a life of isolation, tough times and hard work and, manual labor all day long? Most people, in their minds, of course, as a child, they don't really have a lot of time to think. But I mean, if most people were given a choice, they would choose to live, of course, in comfort in the modern day and age. I live in Vegas right now. It's like 110 or something outside. I got my AC blasting. It's like a refrigerator in here. Nobody wants to be outside when it's raging heat like this. No humidity, no cloud cover, no breeze. It's just sun and exposure. And of course, you have, people on the other side. You have people that live in like Alaska or Canada, overseas, closer towards the poles where it's super cold. And of course, you want a heater. You want to make sure you can, stay alive, not catch hypothermia, and, not have to cut off all of your digits because of frostbite. So, of course, that comes with modern technology, but technology comes at a price. Just to kind of give you a short list of all the things that are affecting our climate that we have no control over, but we're getting beat over the head with as though we have something we can do about it. So, I'm going to start off with car manufacturers. You can't do anything about it. I would say 80 to 90% of people living in just the United States, living in just the US, need a car. You need a car, whether it be a beat up hoopty, or whether you got one of those Ford F-350, big bed, whatever, with a jack on the back or a hitch, and you're towing big ass yachts and stuff. Everybody needs a car. We have, recently began to make strides toward moving to electric cars, but that comes with its own set of issues as far as the climate goes. So we'll stick with gas powered cars or fuel burning cars, combustible engine, I guess you could say. You cannot help the fact that car needs gas. That car emits or produces emissions. That car has poisonous fluids running through it. That car is a big multi-ton weapon that you don't have much of a choice in the fact of the matter of that you need, because to get to one place to another, to get to work, to get to a hospital, to get to the store, to visit family and friends, to get to school, anything like that, we need a car. And that's because civilization has developed. We have mega cities, major metropolitan areas. We have rural, living spaces, and people have to travel. And these, on foot, it's just not feasible to walk from one side of town to another. That could take you a day or two, depending on your speed. Whereas in a car, it's going to take you 20, 30, 45 minutes. It makes sense that you have a car, but you can't help the fact that car is releasing poisonous, noxious gases and chemicals into the environment, slowly degrading our oxygen. So the quality of our air is garbage. It's burning holes in the ozone layer, of course, because smog and CO2 and all of that fun stuff just gets wafted into the air. So, of course, it's not just us who are affected. It's nature itself, the trees, the animals, the insects, everything else is affected by this. So that effect in turn adds to the global warming crisis. How about solar panels? You think solar panels are great? You put them on top of your house or, your RV. It charges an internal battery. You're literally living off of the sun. That's like the biggest source of energy, most natural source of energy. You can literally, just get your livelihood from. The sun powers everything on this earth. So you're like, yeah, that's 100% natural. I'm literally drawing energy from the sun. However, to make solar panels is a super toxic process. Whenever you make anything, you have byproduct. You have some type of waste product or excess that you have to get rid of. So with making solar panels, to get everything working properly and to get the material just right and to get the electronics flowing through the plates and the glass to absorb all this, and that, and then it converts this, and that. That is an extremely toxic process. Extremely toxic process for nature, for animals, and for human beings. But because it's a convenience, because it allows people to, in some cases, quote unquote, live off the grid, it's you need it. It's a convenience. In some cases, it's a necessity. How about cigarettes? You know what I mean? No, cigarettes, tiny little cancer stick. Yes, not only does that kill you, it kills animals, it kills insects, it kills plant life, and it's killing our planet. Those cigarettes, we'll cover the whole thing from start to finish. So in creating the cigarette, where they're getting, so the tobacco of the cigarette is not what's actually harmful. The nicotine in the cigarette is also actually not what's harmful. It's the toxic chemicals they add thereafter into the tobacco to get you addicted and to kill you. That's what's toxic to the human being. Now, after the cigarette is made, you're talking about, you have, like I said, you have excess material, so you got to throw that away. You have byproducts, so nicotine comes in a liquid form, so if it's spilled or if it's poured down the drain or however it's disposed of, if that's done improperly and gets into the ecosystem around that particular facility, it can kill damn near everything, because nicotine, to be ingested, is deadly, like by itself. Smoking a cigarette, it's pretty harmless, but when you ingest nicotine, because you can even absorb it through your skin, so you don't even have to swallow it. Absorbing it through your skin, you can get nicotine poisoning and actually die. It's crazy, like the stuff as humans that we have made to quote unquote, help us or to make us feel better, that really just kills you. In some cases immediately, other cases, one day at a time, one puff at a time. So you have that. Then, of course, after you smoke the cigarette, what do? You chuck the butt out. Well, that means we got to make an ashtray, and we got to put the I call it kitty litter, all the stuff in the ashtray, so that when you put the cigarette out, or when you put the cigarette in the ashtray, the cherry goes out and it doesn't cause a fire. And then you got to, dispose of that. And then you got cigarette butts laying on the floor. So the birds are coming by and they're eating the cigarette butts. Dogs are licking them up. Cats are licking them up. You got a chicken around people, because they do smoke, like chimneys and other areas. So, you got the chickens eating it. And all of a sudden, everybody in your general vicinity is infected, is poisoned in some way, just off of a cigarette. You know what I mean? So that creates problems, not to mention you excelling that cigarette smoke into, like I said, the open air. Not only does it affect the air quality for everybody breathing it in, it also affects our ozone layer, because our ozone layer, our Earth has our atmosphere, and then we have like our troposphere, ionosphere, and then atmosphere, something like that. I may have gotten them wrong in the order, but we have various levels of our atmosphere that protect us not only from the sun, but from external environmental things that could hurt us from space. So we are a self-contained ecosystem. We don't get our air from anywhere else. We don't siphon our air from another planet. We don't have to filter it from outside. It is generated by itself. The Earth has made plants, trees, flowers, whatever you want to call them, that take in carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, and they produce O2, which is oxygen, keeping you alive. So we have things like that. Let's jump on to the next one. Of course, we have war. I know that's so broad, isn't it? But war, because war requires munitions. War requires gasoline, because you got tanks, you got gunships, you got fucking battleships. You have all types of cars and stuff like that. And then, like I said, the munitions, all of this stuff produces a byproduct. Every car, plane, tank, train, everything has an exhaust. All this exhaust goes into the air. It's killing our atmosphere. It's destroying our quality of life as far as our way of oxygen, because it's reducing the quality of our oxygen. So instead of getting pure, delicious 100% oxygen, it's now degraded, because there's 20, 30, 40, 50% unnatural, airborne toxins, or whatever you want to call them, in our air that we're breathing in. If you ever look over Las Vegas, New York, California, some other major metropolitan areas, probably Texas too, when the sun starts to go down or when it comes up, you start seeing these various colors over, like if you look over a major city. So in Vegas, if you look over the strip, so if I go way west, I hit Red Rock Casino, and I look down in the valley as the sun is going down, or I'm sorry, the sun sets in the west. So as the sun is coming up, if you look over the strip, you see this purple and brown haze over the entire strip. That's smog. That's disgusting. That's what we're breathing in. It's so much more worse over on the east side of things. Like I think it's like Japan or Hong Kong. Might be somewhere in China. But and even some parts of India have some of the worst air quality on the planet due to the smog and the emissions produced by their vehicles, and the fact that they have their buildings are so tall and built so close together that there's no air circulating through there, at least not comfortably. So it's not blowing it all away. It's all just kind of sitting there and people just breathing it in. That destroys the ozone layer. We have atomic bombs. Woo! That's going to just destroy every fucking thing. Okay, that was the worst invention alongside the gun that mankind ever came up with. Because not even atomic bombs, nuclear weapons, nuclear equipment, nuclear machinery, while it sounds awesome, and you know, we've seen it in cartoons and movies, and it's like it's glowing and it's cool, and you know, it has enough energy to power a city for hundreds of thousands of years, and this and that. There's so much more to it though, because there's byproduct of nuclear fission. There's byproduct of the nuclear power plants we build that melt down, and all of that nuclear waste floods into the soil and into our oceans, so it infects the fish and infects the wildlife. It infects the I almost called them subdermal. It affects the ecosystem below the surface, which is where all the plant roots are. So the plants are trying to take in nutrients from the soil, but that soil's infected because there's nuclear radiation. Hello, Chernobyl. And even in, I want to say Tokyo. I didn't look at my facts because this is me ranting, so I'm sorry if I don't have all the facts, but it happened somewhere over there. They had a meltdown, and of course the nuclear power plant was right next to the ocean, so all that shit just went right into the ocean, to the point where they were having major die-offs of ocean wildlife. We're still having major die-offs. We're still feeling the ramifications of our nuclear testing, nuclear power plants, nuclear bombs, radioactive waste. Has, I think, a half-life of like a few hundred to a few thousand years. And what do we do with it? We bury it in the ground. Well, what does that do? That means the soil absorbs the radiation. The earth, okay? This is where we get our livelihood from. The earth is now absorbing this radiation because our planet has built-in filters. So when something goes wrong, the planet, or when something poisonous or deadly is in the ground or is in the air, our planet has means of filtering out these poisons to make it a more livable, habitable environment. But us as humans decided, nah, that's not good enough. We want to fuck it up again. So let's go ahead and create some, radioactive material and see what happens there. There's also construction. As a human being, you like your house, you like your air conditioning, your driveway, your sidewalks, your paved roads. You like going to Burger King, Best Buy, Barnes and Nobles, Mickey D's. Your kid likes going to school. You go to work, blah, 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 blah. That requires construction. That requires some type of fabrication. That requires elements and materials to be taken from the earth, smelted, pressed, heated, whatever the process they go through. And they have to, the things that we enjoy have to be created, but that means we have to take it from somewhere. You can't create something from nothing. So we have to extract these materials from the earth, and then we have them. So like my refrigerator, my microwave, my iron, my water dispenser, all that had to be made. Unfortunately, with the creation of a lot of the conveniences we enjoy, it comes at a price, y'all. There's byproducts, there's waste. How many of you have ordered? How many of you have ordered an Amazon package? It came in a box. You open the box had bubbles. You take out the bubbles, there's another box or a bag. You open the bag, and then the package you have is a bag and a bag and a pack. Waste of materials. I ordered a micro SD card. Okay, for any of you who know anything about technology, a micro SD card is maybe an inch long or an inch tall. There's this. It's like half a foot worth of plastic wrapping around the damn thing in a box with packing tape on another box, sealed and shipped to me. And they're like, here, this tiny little 1-inch SD card just came packaged in tons of cardboard and plastic and what have you, because it's convenience, right? You want to make sure it's not an SD card, but if you order a camera, if you order some piece of dishware, if you order something that's very delicate and fragile, yes, I said fragile, deal with it. then, you know, you want it packaged. You want to make sure it's not going to break. You want to make sure it arrives undamaged. But unfortunately, that comes at a cost, because that means there's more unnecessary materials being used to delicately package your item. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, because like I said at the beginning, we don't have a choice. This is the world we were born into. These are the options that are presented to us as we go throughout the course of our lives. So there is no option. Coming up, I've talked about, my mom raised me and my brother by herself. We went to Taco Bell, homie. We went to Mickey D's. We went to Sizzler. It wasn't let's go to the farm and, pick some fruits and veggies from the garden. Let's go to our vineyard over here and get fresh grapes so we can have wine. It wasn't anything like that. It was, we're hungry, so let's go to McDonald's. I'm going to get you a 5-piece chicken nugget or 10-piece, whatever it was back in the day. Let's go to Jack in the Box. I'm going to get you some chimichangas. You know what I'm saying? I wish they would bring those back. I really do. I miss chimichangas. They were delicious. You have to go somewhere. Food has to be made for you, because the lifestyle that we are, quote unquote, afforded nowadays, while convenient and comfortable, it also comes at a price where we have lost the ability to till the soil. You know what I mean? We've lost the ability to sow fruit and reap a harvest, or sow, seeds and reap a harvest from that. We don't do that anymore because we don't need to, because we have all these luxuries in life, as we like to call them, but they come at a price. Everything comes at a price. Deforestation. Come on now. We're destroying natural habitat of various animals and wildlife and insects, various, and we're just destroying it by just acre by acre by acre, and that's leading to extinction of animal species and insect species. That's leading to the destruction of the native people who may be living in that forested area or that particular area. Now they have to uproot and leave. Well, a lot of them don't have the normal antibodies and immune system that you and I have living a civilized life. So that means now they have to get a little closer to you and me, or they have to be relocated somewhere. And that's an adjustment that can literally kill an entire population of indigenous people, depending on who they are and where they go. That can kill them because their bodies aren't suited to that. They're used to living a more natural lifestyle. Everything we enjoy comes at a cost, y'all. Jewelry, okay? I don't know if you've heard of it. I'm sure you have. Kanye, pretty much almost every black rapper has talked about it in some way, shape, or form. Jewelry, they call them blood diamonds for a reason. They come at a cost. Somebody had to die. Multiple people had to die depending on where they got that diamond, that ruby, that sapphire, that pearl, wherever they got that from. Usually 9 times out of 10 is from a third world country, and somebody sacrificed a limb or their life to get that so that you can enjoy wearing it around your neck, wearing it on your finger or whatever. And that's also why I don't understand why black people like jewelry so much, because we know where a lot of this stuff comes from, and yet we constantly supply that type of workforce with a demand that we want, but it comes at a cost of other people's lives. But that's not what we're talking about today. Like I said, everything we see as a convenience comes at a cost. And unfortunately, that's been to nature. That's been to the environment that we live in. Let's take it a step further. We have oil tankers, big ass ships full of oil, the Exxon Valdez, that pretty much just broke in the ocean, scattering millions of tons of oil in the ocean. Y'all, I don't know about you, but I used to be a mechanic. Okay, the real terminology was called a lube technician, but it sounds, so I'm gonna just say a mechanic. I changed oil on diesel and non-diesel vehicles. Oil is thick, oil is goopy, it is dark in most cases because it's been burnt up, and it doesn't wash off easily. It gets on your skin, and it'll leave, like, especially diesel, because it is like black as night. It'll dye your skin for a few days. Like, you can use degreaser and all the soap you want. It's in there. So imagine oil being in the ocean. Okay, we have animals, fish, wildlife, sea life, coral reef, all that shit. They're not built to ingest, absorb, or deal with oil. They're not built to deal with nuclear radiation or nuclear runoff. They're not built to deal with planes crashing into the ocean, dumping their fuel and all of the electronics and the various fluids and everything that's going through this plane is now in the ocean for the fish to eat and ingest and absorb. And then they get pulled out of the ocean, processed, and put onto your dinner plate. Like at some point, I just wonder when we'll get the hint. Like when you go to the store and you go to buy salmon and it's glowing green and they have a radioactive sign on it telling you the radiation levels are just low enough for you to eat. Like, is that when we'll get the point? No. All right, let's press on, because I'm going in today. I'm going so in today. We have offshore oil rigs where they literally sit in the ocean. They take a big ass drill, send it as far down, pretty much through the seabed, and they start drilling for oil. Well, guess what? When that oil comes up, if they're not properly bringing that oil up that pipeline or that drill line, guess where that oil goes? In the ocean. In the ocean, yeah, you're getting it now. And guess what? The sea life take that in. It gets in their DNA because, yes, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the shit we put in the water has the ability to genetically alter the sea life that live there, okay? This sea life, yet again, pulled from the ocean, processed, makes it to your plate via the supermarket, restaurant, chef, whatever, boatman, whoever. It ends up on your plate, in your stomach, in your body. Enjoy. I hope it was delicious. We have coal mining. Coal mining is a horrible job. It's a terrible product. It's just bad for you. Now, coal served its purpose. It was like oil once upon a time. And I mean, we still use it now, especially for like trains and some of the more like older technology people are still using, still burn coal. But mainly from where I see its application still used more than anything is for the trains, like the steam powered trains, and probably actually some ships too, you know, thinking about it now. But coal not only is a bitch to obtain because they literally send miners into a hole. Hopefully it's well constructed because it can cave in and just kill everybody. But they send miners into a hole. 9 times out of 10, this hole has been blasted out or drilled out, what have you, to where there's fine particulates in the air. These miners are breathing in these particulates. They're hitting the rocks, they're hitting the coal, and it's breaking off these small particulates, and they're inhaling the stuff into their lungs. So their lungs literally turn black, like Constantine. Lungs are black to where these dudes just die. They suffocate. Not necessarily always in the mine, but over time, their lungs just, I mean, it looks like they smoke multiple packs of cigarettes a day. So not only that, when you burn coal, bro, it is terrible. Anybody seen a diesel truck just haul ass from a stoplight and it's just a cloud of death? It just looks like a cloud of death. That's pretty much how coal burns. It's just a cloud of death. Anything that gets caught up in the, you know, because if you're burning it, usually it lets off smoke and it comes up the chimney, it comes out the train, it burns off the ship. It leaves residue on everything, this dark residue on shit. And that shit is toxic. It is poisonous. It kills plant life. It kills animals. It kills humans. It served its purpose, but we're still using it. You know why? Because, you know what I mean? Like, the list goes on and on and on. The reason I brought all of that up is to say, you as an individual have no choice. You don't. I'm not even going to say I'm sorry because it's a fact. You cannot stop Coca-Cola from making Coca-Cola. You just can't. You just can't. That they're going to make the Coca-Cola. You can't stop Marlboro from making cigarettes. You can't stop Budweiser from making beer. McDonald's is going to make shitty food. It just keeps going. We keep progressing and we're never fixing the issue. We're just finding a new thing to get your attention on so that we can move further and further away from it until it's so bad it's in your face and we have no choice but to deal with it. We're such a reactive society. We have to wait for shit to go bad before people want to fix it. And I don't mean, yet again, people like you and me. I mean people at the top, people that are in control of these companies, governmental powers, state powers, whatever. These people choose not to do anything until bad shit happens. So while we talk about it, while we discuss it and we argue and we say global warming is real, and these weird whack jobs are like, oh, we only have 10 years to live. We only have 12 years to live. The earth is going to do this. The sun's going to do that. And the moon's going to grow a butt cheek. Like all this stuff, all these wackadoodles, it's just like, but to an extent, they are right. They may not have the timing right, but yeah, after a while, we won't have anything. It'll be a barren wasteland. Me and Lynn were talking about it. Like I said, it almost looks like we're terraforming the planet for another species. It makes no sense that our planet is perfectly built to not only contain us, because regardless of what people want to tell you, there's no such thing as overpopulation. No such thing. There is more than enough landmass on this planet that we can all live comfortably. And guess what? If we run out of land, we can always artificially make more. We've seen it. Dubai is one of those examples. So this whole, there's too many people and we're eating up all the food and blah, 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 blah. Shut up. Shut the fuck up. That is the most dumbest shit I ever heard. Humans have been around for centuries. Okay, 4 centuries before you came out with your stupid ass vegan meat, your Beyond Meat, your whatever. People were living either off of the land or off of the animals and plant life around them. That's how we survive. So, we've been growing. We haven't ran out of food yet. Now, because we live in, overpopulated areas where we try and squish 1 million people, like Vegas, we try and squish 5, 6, 7, 8 million people in this tiny little dust bowl, and we wonder why we don't have enough water, or, gas prices and power prices are going through the fucking roof. It's not like that. When people are comfortably spaced out and we can actually farm the land and live off of the land, yeah, we'll be just fine. I don't know where this whole overpopulation nonsense came from, because, I believe in a higher power, first of all, that we were put here for a reason, but I also believe we wouldn't be here if the earth didn't have enough resources to sustain us. That doesn't make any sense. We have no proof that this has happened to any other species, and no other planets contain life on the level such as us that we can say, oh, well, looking at them as an example, we have no proof. These are, I'm not going to call them baseless theories, but at the same time, pure speculation, because we've never actually seen an event where the earth as a whole has run out of resources and or food to sustain the current size of the population on earth as it is. We may have to find other means alongside the natural means. So like, yes, we have Soylent Green, which, yes, please watch the movie. Oh my goodness, it's people. The Soylent Green we have now is not, but you never know. And then Snowpiercer, oh my God. Oh God. Stuff like that. You look at it and you're like, man, once upon a time that was fantasy, but now it's slowly, little by little, coming true. And you and I, as a single individual, the little man, just trying to make it from one paycheck to another, just trying to put food on the table, just trying to have a savings in the bank, just trying to make a better life, trying to have a family, trying to do whatever. We have no control over the BS that's put out there. I can't shut down a nuclear power plant. We cannot shut down a nuclear power plant. We can't stop the military from mobilizing. We can't stop war. You can't, like I said, you can't stop Coca-Cola. You can't stop Mickey D's. You can't stop Marlboro. You can't stop Ford. You can't stop Durango, Nissan, whatever. How the world is set up now is how it's going to run. I pray we find a better way, a more efficient way, a more natural, nature-friendly way of doing things. But as things stand currently, we have no say in the matter. We have no say. So when I turn on the TV and I'm, like I said, watching Philly D or one of the other channels, and just because I want to, get filled in and just keep abreast of what's going on in the world around me, and, people are like, oh, there's a doomsday clock and this and that. There's also a doomsday clock. I think it's over like Wall Street or something. I could be wrong. But there's like doomsday clocks online. And y'all, it's irrelevant. The planet is built for us. This is our home. It can sustain us, but we have to take care of it. It's just like a person. It's like a dog. You know what I mean? You don't just have a baby, put food around them, rotten, healthy, good, bad, gluten-free, vegan, non-vegan. You don't just put food around the kid and expect them to be able to survive. They don't know what to do with it. They don't understand how life works. So it's like the planet. We can't just go around throwing gasoline on the ground, nuclear radiation, radioactive waste, runoff from all these power plants, and we're just killing shit left and right. Animals, bugs, earth, plant life. We're just killing it all. For what? For what? We didn't ask for this. We were born into this. We do our best to play, or we do our best to do our part. But at the end of the day, I can't stop GM from making cars. I can't stop Boeing from making planes. This is just the way it is. So when I hear of global warming, don't fucking talk to me. Global warming isn't my fault. It's not your fucking fault, okay? It's the people at the top of the pyramid. It's the people in charge of these big ass corporations making the decisions. Why don't they do something? That would be too much like right, and you'd be affecting their income. And that's bad. Because when you fuck with people's wallets, they fuck with your life. So like everything else, we keep it pushing. I just wanted to throw that out there. I know I got a little rambunctious, and I'm okay with it. I don't really care at this point, because that's how I've been feeling for a while. You know, I can't do more than what I'm doing. You know, I try and separate my plastics from the paper, from the metals, and recycle. And, you know, you pick garbage up off the floor, off the ground. We go hiking. We, you know, if you see garbage, we pick it up. Just things like that. You try and do your part, but how much can you really do? How much can you really do? You know, so I'm not saying give up. You know, I'm not saying all is lost, you know, gloom and doom. But at the same time, when I hear stuff like, oh, you know, as a society, we have to change, and this, and that, and it's your fault, it's your fault, it's your fault. It's not my fault, yo. It's really not. I can't do anything about it. But I hope through us having these discussions and more people voicing their opinions and feelings, that we can have an open forum so we can try and progress things forward and actually come to an agreement, as opposed to arguing and yelling and, you know, whatever, because it's not fixing anything. It's not. Greta Thunberg, hit me up. I would love to talk to you. I don't understand the logic of a lot of those people, but I would like to. I would like to get in the mind of somebody like that, because at the end of the day, we all want the earth to survive. We all want our beautiful little blue marble to remain in as a pristine condition as possible. We don't want to destroy it. I don't want to walk around with a gas mask, or I don't want to have to buy air from a machine just so I can breathe in pure oxygen. You know what I mean? Because the earth was built to produce that for us. We don't have to work for it. We didn't have to earn that. It was just built that way. Intelligent design and all that fun stuff. So, you know, I hope we haven't gone too far to the point where we've broken nature. I mean, obviously we haven't. Everything still does what it's supposed to do for the most part. You know, over time, if we don't change, it will get worse. And I don't want that to be a future for us or the next generation or the generation after that. We can fix things now. We really can. We just have to, you know, you may have to hunker down. You may have to tighten your belt for a minute. We may have to sacrifice some stuff, but you'll be all right. You know what I mean? You were okay before Amazon. You were okay before the internet. You were okay before gasoline. You're going to be okay after it. You know what I'm saying? Whew. All right, I'm done. Stepping off my my soapbox. This is D. If you haven't yet already, check us out on our social media. Check out our TikTok, Patreon, YouTube, Anchor, and our website, projectairwaves.com. If you want to check out our merch, Teespring, also link in the description. I'm D. This is Project Airwaves. Keep your head in the clouds and your feet on the ground. I will catch you in the next session. You did good.